Hello, I'm Jessica Jackson of the Thriving in Motherhood Podcast, and today we're going to talk about how to plan effectively so that you don't get burned out. This was a question asked by one of the mothers in our community. Thank you so much for submitting questions. You can still do that at thrivinginmotherhoodpodcast.com/podcast. And today I'm going to share with you some frameworks and principles to help you effectively plan your week so that you can feel really good about it and not get burned out.
Hi, I'm Jessica Jackson, and this is the new way to thrive in motherhood by leaning into who you are, what you love, your unique family situation, and personal mission to create a life that you actually want to live. I want to invite you to join me in saying no to the life of the exhausted supermom, burnout, victim thinking, being pulled in so many directions, suffering through survival mode, or being lost in motherhood, and say yes to building strong families and moving forward on our greatest goals in order to create a fulfilling life that we are excited to wake up to each day and become a soaring mother. This is the Thriving in Motherhood Podcast. I want to take just a moment and share a free gift that I've created for you called 3 Secrets to Do More of What You Love Without Hiring a Babysitter. This workshop is available for you to go watch right now and start taking action on so that you can do more of what you want to do, more of what's on your heart, more of what is important to you. With your children at home. You don't have to wait for them to be in school or for you to have loads of time. There are ways to start moving forward right now. And you can check that out at thrivinginmotherhoodpodcast.com/workshop.
All right, let's jump into our question today.
Hi, Jessica. Thank you so much for your previous podcast about how to do a morning routine with babies. My question has to do with planning. I'll find myself trying to put in time blocks or routines, and it helps me schedule it around the feeds. But by the end of the day, I find myself scribbling in, filling in what I did instead of actually doing what I wanted to do, and just feeling so burnt out and unable to rest and constantly feeling like there is never any time to work on projects or even just time for myself. I was wondering if you had any tips on to how to plan effectively. Thank you so much.
Okay. That is a fabulous question. And I relate to it so much because I feel like if you want to get things done, everyone says time block, time block, time block. That is like the gold standard right now that mothers share. Time block, time block, time block. But I struggled with that so much and had the exact same experience that you did. Bless your heart, trying so hard to figure out your days, to block in the time and get to the end of the day, tired, burned out, didn't rest. And also doing different things, right? You didn't even do the things on your time blocks. I relate to that so much. So I don't plan that way anymore. I would love to share with you what has worked for me, and not just me, but the different principles, different ways of looking at time management, productivity, that works for motherhood, that works when you have little kids at home, that works when you are homeschooling, when you don't have hours and hours and hours a day that are just your own. Right? That's not our life. So let me share other things that work again for mothers all over the world. So, your first comment, or not your first comment, the first thing that really stood out to me is that you feel like you have no time to rest. You're racing to try and get things done and there's no time to rest. So first of all, I know it sounds like you've got meals, but do you have rest planned into your day every day? So for us, we have an anchor of rest and read time. This is a concept I got from Sally Clarkson. I don't think she calls it that per se, but she has a time every day where all of her children are reading books in their rooms and she gets to read in her room. And for me, this has been our anchor. Once my kids stopped taking naps, we started rest and read time, which means I read a book for 15, 20 minutes, 5, 10, somewhere between 5 and 20 minutes, depending on the day. And I sleep for 20 minutes or 10. I take a power nap. And all of my kids do some version of that. They're listening to audiobooks during that time. They're playing in their rooms or actually anywhere around the house. Really, the only requirement is I get to take a nap and you guys they're not on screens or anything, but they're kind of just doing quiet things that they're interested in. As they get older, the reins on that have been pretty, they've got pretty big reins during quiet time. But I can do anything until quiet time, and I can do anything after I've had a power nap. So that is essential. And along with that is exercise. As I have, been focusing on increasing my exercise, my energy has gone way up. And so do you have your exercise planned in during the day? And for me, I love to do that before my kids wake up. I often do it with at least one of them. It's hard to wake up before all of them. So that's the very first thing. Do you have your rest and potentially exercise times planned in? Number 2 principle. You mentioned you don't get to the things you want to do, your projects or things that are really important to you. You got to set those as priorities during your week. You pick those first. The way that I do this is I've created my vision for my year, and then I pick what I'm focusing on for the quarter, and then I pick what I'm focusing on for the month. And every week I look at the thing that I'm focusing on that month and figure out what I'm going to do for these priorities. And you pick 3 of them. You've got different categories. You can pick something for you, just for you, for your family or your home, and something for beyond, something outside of your home, work, or something in the community, or volunteer. Those things, if it would be cool if you could do every one of those things every week. What I find though is that throughout the month, I maybe have a different focus every week, but I hit some of those things within a month. And if I don't, I do start to feel like life is out of balance. So for you, where you're not getting to some of your projects, it sounds like maybe the things for you might not be hitting one of those priorities for the week. And I call that my big 3. I got that out of Michael Hyatt like 12, 13 years ago when he was talking about having a big 3 for the week. His big 3 are things that move the needle forward in your business, meaning you make revenue from it. In motherhood, it's the things that move our projects forward, the things that matter to us forward in creating our vision. So start with that and just start writing those 3 things down. If you have the Thriving Motherhood Planner, there's a spot for your big 3 every week. If not, put it into the planner you're using or put it on a piece of paper that you keep or, carry around the house with you if you don't have a planner, and write down those 3 things first. What that's going to do is keep what actually matters to you front and center, top of mind. Okay. Now, the next thing that you're going to do, you're like, okay, that's great, but when am I going to do it? Let's keep going. So number 3, plan with your spouse each week. I highly recommend having a planning meeting. I go deep. We have an extra training in the Made to Soar Next 90 Days program where Andrew and I sit down and talk you through what our weekly planning meetings look like in detail. But basically, I share what I've picked as my priorities for the week are, and also with the things we have going on. And he shares with me what his priorities are. And then we figure out how to make them happen together. Oftentimes, this looks like he will give me 2 or 3 hours once a week in an afternoon where I can work, or on a Saturday where I can have some time to work on the things that are important to me. Often it's things for this podcast right now. I'm hanging out with you during this time, or something for planning homeschool. But we're very intentional about being aware of each other's priorities and trying to make them happen. And again, it's going to be so unique. My husband teaches night classes. Some nights he doesn't get home till midnight. So his work hours might be slightly shifted. You just have to get creative with what season of life you're in, what your circumstances are. I've got friends that would hire babysitters for 2 hours a week so they can create that time. But the point is that you have a united conversation with your spouse and that you're both aware of what each other is trying to accomplish that week. Okay, number 4, let housework take a back seat for a little bit. A lot of time we're doing our time blocks is because we're trying to figure out when we're going to clean stuff in our houses and when we're going to do all those household management things. And that isn't necessarily as important as figuring out the other things that I talked about first, because you need to build a sustainable life, and one that is joyful and good and positive and full of things that bring joy to you and therefore to your family and that are a part of your family culture. And so to that end, you got to start on those other things up on the list. Now, does the environment of your home matter? Absolutely, yes. And I'm not saying don't do it at all. But if you don't yet know all those things I just talked about, do not worry about the exact time that you're cleaning your house every week or cleaning your bathrooms every week, okay? I have found in these seasons of survival mode that I've been in, or seasons where we're trying to kind of get our footing again about what matters, basics, daily dishes, because those are always coming at you. Laundry, if you're a do a load a day person, great. If you're do it once a week person, great. Just figure out if you're going to do it once a day or once a week and run with that, and then let it just be in the background for yourself for a while. Bathrooms can survive going up to 3 weeks, maybe 4, without you touching them. Not ideal, not ideal. Do I like to clean our bathrooms at least once a week and wipe things down in between? Absolutely, yes. But if you're trying to figure out where to cut corners, that's it, temporarily, not long term. And I have Simplify to Soar Club that I highly recommend. If you are overwhelmed by the house stuff and you're like, I can't stop doing the house stuff, but I also need to figure it out. This is why I created Simplify to Soar Club. I worked on one thing a month for my house, starting to just simplify, and just did a little thing every month. So I knew that I wasn't dropping the household management. I still saw progress. I still saw things moving forward, but I wasn't waiting to start my life and start doing these other things that matter so much before the house is perfect. Okay. So this is my happy medium. I don't want to wait. I don't want you to give up on your house and management and learning those skills and creating those systems. But I also don't want you to wait for your house to be perfect before you start doing these other things that matter to you. And I don't know for sure that, your housework is your thing. You didn't mention that specifically, but often it is for us moms.
Today's episode is brought to you by the Thriving in Motherhood Planner. With this simple system, creating a life you love is as simple as opening your planner and grabbing a pen. Every day with the Thriving in Motherhood Planner, you will know what to do next, what's most important, and what to fill those pockets of time on. You won't find yourself wandering around the house wondering what to do when the kids are playing nicely for a few minutes. You'll be able to fill that effectively with moving forward on the things that matter to you. Follow the Thriving in Motherhood Planner's research-based system so that you can move forward on the things that matter to you, no matter the season of life that you are in. I'd love to help you get on a better path, one that leads to peace and confidence in your unique life with the Thriving in Motherhood Planner. Learn more today at thrivinginmotherhoodpodcast.com/planner.
The last point here is that time blocking doesn't happen until later. Okay. There's too much to sort through when you are starting out to just write out all these things that you're hoping to do and then execute them. Because the reality is that is a whole bunch of habits and systems that you have not developed yet. You don't have all the habits to execute that plan. Your house probably is not set up to execute that plan. All the systems are not in place to execute that plan. All right. It's setting yourself up for exhaustion and failure, unfortunately. So, what you do is you create one thing at a time. So I want you to think about what is either the thing you're most excited about right now or the thing that is driving you the most crazy right now. And in the Thriving in Motherhood Planner, every quarter, we ask the question, what is the one thing that would have the biggest impact on your life? And in this case, it could be adding something that would bring you joy, something like practicing an instrument again. Or it could be something like improving your meal planning system because dinner every night is just driving you bonkers. Whatever it might be. What's the thing that would have the biggest impact for good in your life? And so focus on that thing first. Get that one system dialed in when you're going to do it. Set up the environment so it's easy to do that thing. If it's having the kids help unload the dishwasher, rearrange the kitchen so they can reach all the dishes. It's going to take some work. It's a project. And that's why we have to go slow and make things stick. That's why we've got to pick one thing at a time and get it set up to go smoothly. And I teach you how to design these family systems in the Made to Soar Next 90 Days program. There's a module in there all dedicated to that. But the idea here is that as you pick this one thing and it becomes easier over time because you set up the environment to make it easy and because you've executed that plan, it's starting to become a habit for you and your family, that now you have a spot that you can put on your time block that thing. And then you'll pick another thing that's driving you crazy or you need to add, and you'll add that in, and then another, and then another, and another. And over time, you will create a functioning time block system that's working for you. But because you've done it slowly over time, where you have changed, where you've set up the habits, where you've created the environment, where you have the family system so that you actually are capable of executing that plan. And that's where we start with this vision. And why that vision is so important, why everything on this list that I mentioned above this point is so important, because it's not possible to really scale your life up to this level of functioning without some of these other foundational pieces in place. Without having your rest built in, your times to rest and your time to exercise, because you're going to need energy to be able to do the things that you want to do. Without having clarity about your vision, your why, the type of life you're trying to create, the type of family culture you're trying to build. You need to know what that is and be working towards that. That's where the enthusiasm and excitement comes in. That's where we get the energy and have the need to figure out all the other things for our house, because you want to spend your time and energy doing something else that's enjoyable for you, right? That drives the necessity and figure out my dishes. If I don't have anything I'm excited about, then I certainly do not care about whether I get my dishes done. You need to have communication in place with your spouse or the other support people in your life so that they know what's important to you every week and you know what's important to them, and you can work with synergy. That's a 7 Habits of Highly Effective People term. You can go back and listen to all of my podcast episode series, maybe around like episodes 50, 60 that I did a few years ago, because those principles are life-changing and will help you in these conversations. But again, you can check out the module in Made to Soar as well. It's a bonus where Andrew and I go through all of that planning together with you. And then housework takes a back seat until you figure out some of these things, right? It's important, and I never gave up on it. So Simplify to Soar Club, again, like I created that real time because I didn't want to stop doing the housework. I didn't want to let it go, but I also needed to figure out some other things that brought me joy and this family culture side. And so that'll just baby step you through so you can make progress while you're figuring all these other things out. And then you will hit the time blocking, where you will have a time block that's actually working for you, because all these other things are dialed in, and you can start fine tweak. Like that's when you get to the point where you can start being like, every Tuesday afternoon, we clean the bathroom. Actually, my kids clean the bathroom, right? Or these days, these kids do the laundry, and this is when I do the laundry. You build up to that, but it's something you grow into. So if you need help with that, Made to Soar Next 90 Days program, I would love to help guide you through that process. But in the meantime, I hope that you have a wonderful week. Please submit your question at thrivinginmotherhoodpodcast.com/podcast. You can send me a voice message. And then I would love to know on iTunes, how did the show impact you? Please leave a review, share how your own experience or story with the show. I love reading it. I love learning from you and how it's helping you and helps me know what to do better. And if this episode helped you and you thought of someone while you're listening, send it their way. I would appreciate if you text it to a friend, send it in an email, pass it along. Let's do motherhood together. Thank you so much. And I am excited to talk with you again next week. Today, I'm excited to share with you about the Made to Soar Next 90 Days program. It is a self-paced online course with lots of interaction from me that has transformed the lives of women from all around the world as they have learned to build unique family systems that support them in their own unique life circumstances, that allow the necessary and essential things of life to get done and leave time and energy to do what matters most to them. I'm going to let some women who have been through the program tell you a little bit more about their experience now.
Just mucking through the day was just survival. And then I was like, the thought of trying to do anything extra was like, well, that's just never gonna happen.
I think with Made to Soar, I don't know, I was probably hoping that it'd be the magic bullet for morning.
I mean, we had no systems in our house. I mean, we had no morning, we had no routines.
How can I infuse meaning into my life? And even if I do the same thing, how can I think about it differently so that I'm feeling fulfilled?
And so that was my goal in joining the Next 90 Days, was to figure out how to kind of handle all of these different domains. How do I become intentional with all of these things and make sure that I'm meeting my own expectations?
Now I have systems set in place that things like the laundry, just automatic, things get done.
Because I was able to have the foundation of some of these systems and routines, when things got crazy, I could still go back to those and be like, okay, well, at least the laundry got done. At least my kids got fed. At least I read the Bible and did my workout today.
So it helped me go through a couple big moves and big changes and to keep some level of stability for the family.
Figuring out how do I homeschool? How do I do it with consistency and some level of discipline? And then how do I build a business and still find meaningful work outside of my home? All of that, I wouldn't have known how to organize it. It was all kind of just like spaghetti in my brain.
With Made to Soar, just gaining clarity about what I wanted my days and weeks to look like, my hours and my spare minutes.
This is how we get to where we want to go, and just changing those expectations has helped me be happier.
I have power to change my circumstances, right? That I can put in new routines. I can solve some of these problems. I can think about things differently and realize that I have power to be in a better place.
Where you are planted, watch the blossoms grow.